Hello and welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast. Now, this is a bit of a weird episode because we're sat here. It's a Wednesday evening. This isn't like us at all. But we're here again, mainly to make amends for Adam's terrible preview episode. Great recording, terrible audio. I feel so sorry for him. He definitely cried himself to sleep at night after that one. But we're here today. We've got no game on Saturday, so why not talk about Port Vale away? I've got one guy that was here with me, two people that are mega plastics because they didn't go. And we've got loads and loads of talking points. So joining me today, Mr. Regular nowadays, Jamie Page. How are you, pal?
Yeah, I'm good. And boo to Adam for getting that all wrong. I thought that would be me, to be honest. Adam's normally a reliable bloke, so...
Yeah, it's the moustache. That's what it is. Since he's grown that, everything's gone wrong, I've noticed. I've also got Vic. I enjoyed getting very cold with you watching the game yesterday, Vic. It was good.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to spend the evening with Mr. Barker and watching us win 1-0. Like I said, I got it right in the predictions in the last pod, so call me Mystic Vic from now on.
Mystic Vic. You're also Vic who can parallel park. You did me a huge favour when we were trying to park on the streets of Stoke. I genuinely couldn't get in. I've not parallel parked since I was about 17. It was Vic gave me a bit of a hand, which was both humiliating and very kind at the same time. And last but certainly not least, we've got a debutant today, and I'm going to try so hard not to butcher a name because it's got a slight tinge of Frenchness about it. It's Gabby Loren. How are you, Gabby?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You say it's your first time ever on a podcast, so no pressure at all.
First time, yeah. Take it easy on me, please.
We've got intimidating characters like Jamie in here, so I can't promise anything. But Jamie, just to kick it off, I mean, there's a player we've got to talk about straight away. John-Jules, his first touch since coming back from injury, and he scores. I mean, when we look at the goal, Barkhuizen did really well to win the ball back. Mendez-Laing takes it down the line. Brilliant ball with the outside of his foot. And right place, right time, a striker making a run into the 6-yard box, which we never, ever see at Derby. John-Jules puts it away. How happy were you to see that go in?
Yeah, really happy. Apart from, I thought he was offside for a moment. Just the way the camera angle was, I was sure that the flag would go up and it'd get ruled out and it would be just one of those nights. But yeah, like you say there, it kind of broke. I mean, Mendez-Laing's first touch was absolutely amazing. That's a man who actually didn't have his best game last night. But when you've got that form, I think sometimes in a moment, it just seems to happen for you. And that definitely happened. And yeah, I mean, he's been out injured, but that's not a finish of a man who's short of confidence or short of football. He took it first time and actually beating Ripley, who seemed to be a brick wall until that point. So, yeah, it was an amazing goal, and the celebrations, you were there, were pretty special as well. You could hear them live on Rams TV. So, yeah, 1-0, we take it, we move on. It's not the most glamorous of wins, but there you go. No one's going to look back and go, oh, what happened at Port Vale away if we do get promoted?
Exactly. And Vic, I mean, one thing I didn't realise, I don't know if you did at the time, was he actually put the ball through the keeper's legs, which when you look at it, that's a tremendous finish. You know, when you think he's not kicked a ball competitively since September, he'd barely kicked a ball competitively before that in months. And he comes on, first touch. Ripley, as Jamie said, was pretty unbeatable throughout the game. He made an amazing save from, I think it was Tyrese Warne from the edge of the box. And he just looked like a goalkeeper that won't be beaten. And then all of a sudden, John-Jules pops up, puts it through his legs. You know the question I'm going to ask now. We've been quite critical of James Collins, and I think rightly so. I know he's our top scorer, but most of them are penalties. And I think he had a few chances yesterday he should have taken. Does John-Jules come straight into the team? Is it a bit early for him? What do you reckon?
I think fitness will be an issue there. So, obviously, we'd have to bear that in mind. But with John-Jules, he offers us something different to what we've already got at the club. So, we've got Collins. We know he's pretty predictable in the way he plays, and he's never in. The key difference between Collins and John-Jules is John-Jules actually gets into the 6-yard box, whereas Collins is on left wing or right wing. And he's not where the striker should be. We were talking about this last night. So I think it's too soon to start him. However, it's good to have that option because he offers us something different. And like I said, his finish yesterday, it's natural ability, isn't it, from John-Jules? He's got that in his locker, and it's just something different to offer us. So long may his hopefully good form continue.
You can't just keep using that. You can't use it for everything.
It's my catchphrase. I can use it all the time. I'm copywriting it now.
No, I love it. And Gabby, I mean, to sort of finish off on John-Jules, it's quite funny because pretty much everything he did after the goal was hilarious. When he slipped over in that really icy corner, it's like, you were right. Like,
Yeah.
He looked like a player that was rusty. But when you look at the way he took that goal, does he strike you as a player that could get more goals in a Derby shirt?
Yeah, definitely. I think he could become such an important player for us up front. Like you say, Collins has had a bit of an up and down season. Same with Waghorn, like coming in and out of the team. So with Washington as well injured, having John-Jules back in the side will be so important for us going forward, definitely.
And if you're going to make a sub off the bench next game, and you've got a choice of either John-Jules or Waghorn, who are you bringing on?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I would say it depends when, because obviously John-Jules needs to get back up to fitness. But I think after his instant impact, definitely John-Jules, I think.
Good choice. Good choice. Jamie, what do you reckon? Let's get your thoughts as well.
I was going to say, that's a very hard question to
It
ask
is,
as a debut. I suppose it depends where we are in the game. I like Waghorn. I think he can have an impact. But yeah, I'm just massively behind John-Jules at the moment for a number of reasons. I think he's so raw. He looks like a real talent. He's also got my favourite ever pair of boots that have ever been created as well. So when I just thought he couldn't get more perfect, that's what he wears on his feet. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think now we're looking at things. And I mean, you look at it last night and Joe Ward, who probably we started at the start of the season and said, that's probably our best signing. That's the one that we've all gone, okay. Well, apart from Sonny Bradley, but never mind.
Not again. We can't do this again.
Adam's not here, so we can't talk about Sonny Bradley. But he didn't even get on last night. Joe Ward didn't even get off the bench, you know. So we're looking at it and we're thinking we have got players that can, providing that they all stay fit, and we've also got a couple to come back as well. We have got a bit of depth. Obviously, we know we need to go and get more. But I think there's definitely options to have off the bench. Whether John-Jules has enough, like the guys have said, to start, I don't think that's probably going to be until maybe after Christmas. But if he continues to have those cameo appearances off the bench and nicks a few goals and causes, you know, tired defenders problems, then I think he's definitely someone that I'd want to see stay around. Whether we can do that and get that done, who knows?
Well, exactly. And we've got a comment from DCSC Matthew who says JJ needs to start over Collins. I think, yeah, fitness permitting, I agree. But yeah, it's nice to see people agree with Gabby and Jamie as well. And Shane's actually come on and said he thought Collins had one of his better games without scoring. I'm not sure I agree with that, but, you know, he works hard, doesn't he? And we've had this conversation enough on this podcast, I think. I can't talk about James Collins anymore. But Vic, I mean, to come to you, talking about the atmosphere yesterday. Now, one of the things this season has been heavily criticised is the atmosphere, especially at Pride Park. But away from home, it's not been fantastic as well in certain games. I mean, there's some games I can remember. I mean, Bolton especially, the atmosphere was awful. We barely sang all game. Yesterday, I thought was fantastic. We sang pretty much from minute one to the final whistle, even when we weren't winning, even when we weren't playing too well in the first half. We backed the team all the way through. And I do think it genuinely made a difference because you could see how much it meant to the players. And at the end of the game, all the players were coming over and starting to bounce and celebrating. And we talked a little bit about the bond between the players and the fans after the argument between Hurahan and some supporters might have been broken a little bit. Can you see it getting healed a bit now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it helps that we've won 4 in a row, but now we've actually got something to shout about on the pitch. I think the biggest criticism was that the players weren't performing on the pitch, and we saw that in timeless, so many different games. We saw it against Shrewsbury, we saw it against Stevenage. the boys have turned the corner. Some key players are hitting form. And obviously, if we can, like we said on the pod before, we can back the players, we can be almost like the 12th man, and just maybe give them that extra 10% that they can work off and they can thrive on, so we can go on and maybe go and get a winner like we did yesterday. It's nice to see that the connection between the fans and the players is restoring itself. Hopefully that can continue. But like you said, they've given us something to shout about the last 4 or 5 games, and it's nice to see. So hopefully we can continue this good form. It looks like the players do care. I think the Shrewsbury defeat was one that we took really, really to heart. And we've got the reaction that we sort of wanted from it. 4 wins in a row is no mean feat. So hopefully we can continue that form as well. But let's hope we can continue our part as fans and really back the team going forward.
Long may it continue, some might say. With
Just waiting for it.
I know.
I was about to.
You got to let it out, Vic. You got to let it all out. And I mean, Gabby, one player that I really, really wanted to bring up today, and everyone's been talking about, is Kane Wilson. Now, Kane Wilson is a player, we know he's got talent. We know that he's, he was great at Forest Green a couple of years back. When he signed, I think first couple of games, people were a little bit apprehensive. When he was playing at right back, he looked a little bit wobbly. But then in recent games, he's been unbelievable. That run he made towards the end yesterday to get us out of trouble was really, really special. Is he one of those players that Derby have got that can sort of carry us up the league? Will he be one of those players that can make a real impact throughout the season?
I think so. I'm a huge fan of Kane Wilson, so I'm really glad you asked me this question. I think he's brilliant. I think Paul Warne said it. He's like the best kid in the playground. He's such I love watching him play football. He's very creative. He can beat a man. He creates those chances for us, and I think it's exciting football that he plays, and it's kind of the football that I like to see in creating chances. So I think definitely he's one of my favourite players, so I'm really glad you asked me that.
No, I agree. And when he picks up the ball, it looks like no one can get it off him. And I can't remember the last time we had a player like that. I know Mendes Lang is good on the ball, but he's destructive in a different way, isn't he? He's pace, power. Whereas Kane Wilson's technical ability, I almost called him the League One Messi yesterday, and very glad I changed my mind, because I would have been absolutely rinsed if I'd said that. Jamie, you've unmuted, and that worries me. What were you going to say?
I was just getting ready for my question, but I don't agree with that at all. But no, I'm joking. No, let's get carried away. Rather than being on this podcast and criticising players, criticising Warne, let's get carried away. Why not? 4 wins on the bounce. And I mean, what you said there, I think some players, like Mendes Lang, for example, he'll kick the ball in front of him and then he'll run onto the ball. Whereas if you look at Wilson dribble, it's almost like the ball kind of sticks to him as he's running. I know he's not the tallest player. He's got quite a low centre of gravity. He doesn't seem to be kind of kicked off the ball or foul too much. And there was that point yesterday that you tweeted out, Jake, and it's just like, who's going to stop? You looked at it and thought, who's going to stop him? Who's going to stop him? I think the problem is he stops himself when he gets up the other end and puts it wide from 2 yards out. He needs to obviously work on his finishing, but I think it's one of them with Kane Wilson. It's where do you play him? Where do we feel he's going to be best? Because obviously we've got Nyambi, and if we play a 4, Nyambi probably starts at right back. If we go for this 3-5-2, then of course he can play in that wide position. But then again, I've already made a reference tonight to Joe Ward. I want to see Joe Ward back in the team. I think he's got a lot to offer with his set pieces and with his delivery. All dependent on obviously who's up front. Maybe that's someone we go out and get in January, and actually there can be a good connection built between Joe Ward and a striker. So again, going back to what I said earlier, there's lots and lots of options, and that's definitely what we need if we're gonna mount a bid for the top 2, which we're going to talk about now, aren't we? Surely we're going to talk about the top 2. It's in our sights.
Yeah, I knew you were going to be delusional. I didn't realise we were going to be this delusional this early
League
on.
One Messi, and you're telling me I'm delusional.
I know I'm delusional. I can accept that. I can accept that. We've got a couple of comments from when you've been talking, Jamie, and one of them's from Shane Milburn about Wilson. And he said the great thing about him is the positive way that he plays. There's no sideways and backwards. Even if it doesn't come off, it doesn't change his way of playing. He keeps going. And I completely agree with that. He's as he says, positive. Always forwards, always trying things, and that's exactly the sort of player you want. And one of the players you mentioned before, Jamie, I know obviously we're talking about being positive. This is maybe a slight criticism is Conor Hourihane, and his role seems to be a little bit confusing. I'm not entirely sure what he's meant to be doing. I'm guessing he's meant to be that deep line playmaker, that number 6 that just sits in and connects the play. But Vic, we were speaking yesterday, weren't we? We want a little bit more from him. He seems to be playing very safe. He seems to be playing very slow, and we know he's got the ability to do more.
Like we were saying yesterday, it looked like his legs had gone a bit. Having said that, he did put a couple of good through balls in, and I think it was in the second half, maybe one in the first as well. So we know the ability's still there. Whether the energy is still there is obviously in question. Sometimes it does look like he's playing like a third centre-back. He drops that deep sometimes. But maybe is he compensating that so we can allow Max Bird to go forward? I'm not too sure. I mean, we know with Conor Hourihane he's a match winner, so we know that he'll come out with a moment of brilliance. Yesterday his set pieces admittedly were awful. I don't think he beat the first man in any of them. However, because he's got that ability, we know that he can turn a game on its head. Obviously, we'd like to see a bit more from Conor Hourihane being our captain as well. But again, if it is that he has to sit deep and it works for the rest of the team, I don't want to change something that doesn't need to be fixed because we're 4 wins up, aren't we, at the minute? So, if this is what we need to expect of Conor Hourihane going forward, then maybe we'll have to let him do that if it means that the rest of the team can flourish.
Yeah, exactly. And it does give Warne and Bird a lot more freedom, doesn't it? I think Warne especially, he gets around all game. He never stops running. And, his movement played a big part in creating some of the chances that we made as well. He was unlucky not to score. I still don't know how Ripley saved that. It was an unbelievable save. I know he got stick all game, which was quite funny. And he was even winding the fans up at one point when it was one of the goal kicks, which was quite entertaining. But yeah, he had a brilliant game. And yeah, if Wildsmith departs, I know who I'd want in goal. So yeah, I mean, Gabby, we've spoken a little bit about Conor Hourihane, but we need to talk about Tyrese Warne as well, because he'd been out of the team for a little while, comes on at the weekend, sets up a goal, starts as a pretty good game. Now, Corey Smith is the man whose place has obviously been taken. If you had to pick between the two of them, I keep giving you hard questions, I'm sorry. If you had to pick between the two of them, Corey Smith or Tyrese Warne, and why?
I would pick, I think Warne right now, obviously, he had a few good appearances and he's created chances, but I think Smith, for his experience, I would still choose him, especially when we're trying to extend the winning run, like to stick with experience over a few good appearances. I think I would pick Smith.
God, Jamie, disagree. I know, I can see your eyes.
Well, I wouldn't have any of them if we can go and get a different midfielder in January, because I think that's one
in the
position
question.
we need. Yeah, I know. No, it's true. Okay, I'll answer the question. No, I'd go for Warne right now. I think Warne has that energy that can get up. As Vic said, if Hourihane's playing that deep and is that conservative, we need two players that can go and get involved and be almost kind of box to box. We should be taking games to teams, and I think what we've seen at points this season, you said there about actually I think it was off air before you said it. I can't remember if it was on air or off air, to be quite honest, but we say about our kind of first half and we're a little bit kind of tentative. It takes us a little bit of time to kind of get going, and I think that's probably one of the issues, is that we haven't really got someone in that middle that's creative. I think we'd like to think that Max Bird can do it, but he doesn't do it all the time.
Can't on his own, can he?
No, he can't. You're right. And if we see what we saw from Warne yesterday and at the weekend when he set up that goal, I mean, he looked like Paul Pogba, the way that he kind of moved and got himself into a position to play that ball back to Mendes Lang. So if we've got the League One Pogba, obviously the Pogba before his recent.
You don't want the current one.
No, don't want the current Pogba. But yeah, I think it's his position to lose. I definitely think it is. But as we know, Paul Warne is a big Smith fan. Smith was poster boy, as I said, at the start of the season with the home shirt. He's always in the adverts. And he is a good player. So it's interesting. But I'd pick Warne right now.
Yeah. Vic, you've got the deciding vote, mate.
I'd go with Warne, just purely because I think we need the legs in midfield until Thompson's sort of back up and running and fit. Warne is a good replacement for that. I mean, if we put Smith back in, obviously if he hasn't got the injury, if we put Smith back in again, it just slows down that midfield, and then we literally become bystanders in that midfield. We said it yesterday with Port Vale that some of the success they had was trying to play through the middle. But if we've got Max Bird and Tyrese Warne doing all the running, and we've got Conor Horan sitting deep and literally trying to spray the ball forward, that could be the midfield balance that we need for now. It's almost like a temporary fix. So I'd take Warne at the minute, just because it's the youth and the energy and the tenacity he has as well. It's something a bit different to what maybe Max Bird will offer, who's trying to go more further forward. So maybe we need a bit of that tenacity in the midfield as well.
Yeah, definitely could be right. Definitely could be right. Sorry, Gabby, you've you've been outvoted. Gabby, I've got a question for you regarding the way Derby sort of set up, because we've seen it a couple of away games this season, a couple of home games too. We seem to sit in a lot in the first half, try and absorb pressure, just try and slow them down, silence the crowd, and then in the second half, we push on, we bring on attacking players, usually the likes of Kane Wilson or Tom Barkhuizen, as we did yesterday, will come on, and we really go for it. And we try and score, late on and get a goal when the opposition have very little time to react to it. What do you make of that? Because we've had lots of people, including us, that have sort of complained, it's a little bit negative. Bristol Rovers game first half was so dull. What do you make of it? Do you think it's a winning formula? Should we all shut up and just see that it works, or should we be hoping for something else?
I think it's sometimes stressful to watch because obviously you want something to happen and nothing's happening, and then you want to score that goal, so then it relieves the pressure a little bit. I think it makes for some exciting moments, but I do think to make it like a sure result, I think we should start attacking earlier and really creating those chances earlier to make it less stressful for all of us.
No, I know what you mean. And yeah, I guess if you were going to tell Paul Warne one thing, if you were going to ask him one thing, would it be go for it a little bit more in the first half?
Yeah, I think so. Because I feel like, especially Derby fans, they like a more positive style of football rather than the negative style that we've been seeing this season. So I think we want to get back to that positive style of play, definitely.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Jamie, I mean, you've been quite critical, haven't you, of the way we've played? But if you look at us statistically, we're 6 points off the top. Right, 6 points, which seems bizarre. Me and Vic were talking about it yesterday, like crazy. You think of how many games we've had, like Shrewsbury, Stevenage, and I mean some of the home games at the start of the season, Wigan, and it feels like we've not been anywhere near good enough to be near the top. Yet here we are with a couple of games in hand on Stevenage in front of us, in the top 6, only a couple of points off top. Has Warne sort of silently, under the radar, got us into a really strong position, and has he turned it around?
Yeah, I think so. I think it goes against the league probably. I don't think the league's as strong as it has been previously. It's definitely not as strong as it was last year. But then again, if we'd have said when we had that episode where we're contemplating whether to get rid of Warne or not, that a month, 2 months down the line, this is where we'd be. I don't think that we'd kind of, believe each other. The football hasn't been amazing. Like Gabby said there, it's not always been positive. And like you said, we tend to take a while to kind of get going, but we've got results. I think the foundation comes from having a really solid defence. I think you can say the back four, because I'm going to give Fozzie some credit, but those players, including the goalkeeper, they're all starting to know what each other are capable of doing. They're solid, and that's the foundation that we've been able to build from. And I think if we are able to get going in games a little bit more and kind of compete with the teams around us, I think that's the next important thing. I think we've got some games coming up against those around us. So if we can get results against the teams like Oxford, I think the sky's the limit. I mean, I tweeted out, this was when we had the first kind of blip, and I put out that I believe that we'll be second by Christmas. And then we went on that run, and I thought, oh no, I just know on Christmas Day, I'm just getting loads of notifications going,
From
you're
me.
an idiot. Yeah, from you and from Vic and from Adam and maybe from Gabby now that I've told her about it. I think it's possible. I think it's possible. But like you say, it just doesn't feel like we've really got going. You don't look at it and think, oh my God, this team is amazing. But there is potential there. And that's when you look at things and go, okay, we're on a run of 4 and we haven't played well. Imagine if we really kick on, then this 4 could turn into 8, could turn into 10, could turn into 15, and suddenly
30.
it's and then it's a promotion party. So yeah, I'm happy with the way it's going. I don't really care as long as we win games. But I do feel that we need to see a little bit more, a little bit earlier from Paul Warne and co.
Yeah, I think it's a symptom of the way we play, isn't it? The fact that fans get frustrated because if we do win, it's great, as we saw yesterday. But if we lose, it's awful. And it's like, what a waste of my time. So, yeah, I completely understand that. But you mentioned the back 4 there. And Vic, when you look at our back 4, Ryan Nyambe, Curtis Nelson, Erin Cashin, Craig Forsyth, that is the most solid back line I can think of. You know, there's no defence in this league that's better than that. I don't care what stats say. I know we're right up there anyway, but that defence is unbelievable. You know, 2 centre-backs that are both great on the ball, both great in the air, great on the ground. I mean, they were up against Ikpeazu yesterday, who's about 40 stone. And all that happened was Cashin got rolled once and he still got the block in. You know, he was up against a striker that was about 3 times higher and 3 times wider than him, and he still marshalled him all game. And Curtis Nelson's been a rock. Craig Forsyth's just getting better and better. And Ryan Nyambe, he's the weirdest footballer I've ever seen, but he's so good defensively. You know what I mean? So when you've got a defence like that, people always say, I think it was Sir Alex Ferguson, wasn't it, who said, attack wins your games, defence wins your titles. Is it a defence that can win us, well, top 2? It's not as exciting, but that.
Yeah, I mean, like Jamie said, we've got the solid foundation of knowing that back 5, including the keeper, are all solid and all sort of intertwined and know how each other play. I mean, we've got the perfect blend in that defence. If you look at like Nyambe and Cashin, for example, then they're like peak age to young age. Then you've got the experience of Nelson and Fozzie. It's a perfect blend there. They all know how to play well. Nelson, if anything, has probably been the surprise package of the season. So we didn't think he'd be as good as he has been. Probably been our best signing of the season so far. And he's just a calming presence at the back. And sometimes he does those Keogh-esque runs, which is nice to see because I haven't seen that for a while. But the defence has got a good balance. It's got a good understanding between them. And it's nice. They know that they've got a solid keeper behind them as well. So that back 5 is probably too good for League One, I'd say, judged on current form. I mean, wow. I reckon that's easily that could be a championship defence, easily. But yeah, like you said, that foundation could help us push up the table. If we can sort out the other end and start scoring more goals, there's no telling where this team could end up come end of the season.
Well, let's hope we're still this optimistic in a few months' time. And we've got a couple of comments. Matty's asked Jamie if he'd stick with his prediction. Do you reckon? Second place?
Now I am, yeah. If you asked me about a month ago, I'd say 12th. But no, I'm backing it. I'm backing it. And if I'm wrong, I want to be wrong because we're top.
I like it. And Shane Milbur's coming with another good comment saying it's mind-blowing that a win at Orient takes us within 3 points of Bolton until the Monday when they play. And Peterborough also play Oxford on the 9th as well. So all the teams around us are playing each other, which is really good news. So yeah, if we can pick up a win at Orient away, that'll be a special one. And Gabby, I just want to ask you about Nathaniel Mendez-Laing, because we talked about him a lot at the weekend. We talked about him a lot a week ago. It's because he keeps doing things. And it was his magic that set up the goal yesterday. The outside foot pass, I mean, he's clearly very happy about it, because when I commented that on his Instagram, he replied, and I felt very special for about 5 minutes. It was unbelievable, and he's always a player that creates something. He possibly should have scored from the edge of the box, and he scuffed it a little bit, but he sets up the goal. He's got another assist. That's 6 goal involvements in 6 games. He's a player that's really in form at the minute, isn't he?
Yeah, he is so important to this team. Like, every match you expect him to start. He's unstoppable, it seems. Like, he's so strong, but then he's also fast, and it's just, I feel like he's in the form of his life at the moment as well. So for us to have that in our team, I'm very grateful for, because he's just creating so much for us, and he's such a big game player, and I just feel like he's so important for our team, definitely.
And when you look at Mendez-Laing, I mean, as good as he's been, on the other side is where the questions are. You know, you've got Tom Barkhuizen, you've got Kane Wilson, you've got potentially Joe Ward, you've got Louis Sibley. That's been the big question, isn't it? Who starts with Mendez-Laing? Mendez-Laing, as you say, is always a shoo-in. Who should the other one be?
I think Kane Wilson as well. Like, with him, I think they can create a lot together. I think Sibley is good on his day. I think when he's having a good day, he is amazing for us. But I don't think he's that consistent yet. So I think I would,
after 3 years.
yeah, true. But I think at the moment, Mendez-Laing and Kane Wilson are the most important players for us up front, definitely.
Yeah. I think we all agree with that one. I think we were chatting about that yesterday, weren't we, Vic? Kane Wilson's slowly getting his way in, which is weird when we signed him as a right back, and now all of a sudden he's our right wing or left winger, ahead of players like Tom Barkhuizen, is quite entertaining. And I guess just to finish us off, because we've got no games to talk about at the weekend where we usually do, I just want to ask you, Jamie, and I'll go round to everyone, and I just want a yes or no answer. The age-old Paul Warne question. I'm not going to ask Warne in or Warne out, but do you think Warne's managed to turn this team into his team?
Yes, but
I think
I'm only yes probably after, ironically, after yesterday, because I think them full-time scenes, anyone that I think the club actually put out some video footage of the full-time scenes, but I felt that all of them players were playing for the manager, they're playing for the team, they're playing for each other. You know, they're all obviously absolutely, you know, over the moon that John-Jules got the goal, and the scenes were absolutely amazing. And I don't think you can really fake that.
Yeah.
They're not actors at the end of the day. They're professional footballers. I think he's turned the corner, but with that in mind, I think we've still got to keep those levels up. I think we've still got to stay within the playoff places, because I think if we fall out, then that's when the negativity comes from the fans. That's when, you know, the players feel that. That's when the staff feel that. So I'm hoping that whatever happens, we can stay within the playoff places. In the worst case scenario, at the end of the year, we're in the playoffs.
I thought we were top 2.
That's worst case scenario. You always, I always text Jake, and he always says to me, "You're always glass half empty. You need to start being half full." So I'm trying to take a leaf out of your book, mate, and you're just
I appreciate
striking me down.
You know, I'm only joking. Vic, what do you reckon, mate?
I'd say yes, purely because I think we weren't that far off even when we were losing games. I think we were playing the way he wanted us to play, just we weren't getting the rub of the green. I think a lot of luck and a lot of decisions went against our way. He's turning the corner. This looks more like his team. The only thing I just want to question is the consistency. Can we keep this consistently good? Can we build these runs? Can we, even if we lose a game next week, for example, can we go on another run where we win 4 or 5 on the bounce? That's the only thing that just worries me at the minute, just the consistency of it all. But I think he's turning the corner, and fair play to him. He's silencing some of the critics as well. Like we said, at the end of the day, it's a results business. I couldn't care less if we played rubbish for 89 minutes. If we go and get a 90th minute winner and we get 3 points, that's all that matters to me. And let's get out of this league as soon as possible.
Well, exactly. And Jamie referenced the should we get rid of Paul Warne episode that we did a couple of months ago. And thankfully, he makes us look silly. And we were asking for it, weren't we? We were hoping and praying that he'd prove us wrong. And at the minute, he is, which is great. Gabby, what about you? What do you reckon?
I think yes, as well. I think the consistency that we're starting to see, it's taken a while, but I think we're starting to see it. It happened last season as well, but it's happened a little later on in the season this time. But I think what happens in January, in terms of are we going to be seeing the same team as we are now after the January transfer window, will be very interesting to see if he can turn the corner fully, because the whole team could change in January.
Well, exactly. Yeah, Cashin goes and we bring in the next Springer. I think, I think things would go very, very wrong. Jamie, go on, just say what you want to say, mate. You don't need to put it in the chat.
Yeah, I was just going to add, get it right in January. I think we obviously need to go and get some reinforcements. We don't yet know if we're going to lose some players. And I think actually everyone thinks, oh, we might lose Cashin, we might lose Bird. But what happens if a championship club looks at Mendes Lang, who's free scoring, and goes, hold on, he can get us out of trouble? Or someone goes, Wildsmith's absolutely amazing, which he is. Why doesn't he come and play championship football? So you never really know what clubs are looking at players. And we've said there that we've got a championship level defence. Vic said it. There's going to be clubs that are looking at not just Cashin and Bird. So we need to be careful of that. Niambi, of course, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Warne seems fairly confident, doesn't he, that he can make him stay around. And I'm hopeful. But I think with that, even if Niambi did go, I think we've got cover within the team. And actually, I think we can cover that quite easily. But covering for a Max Bird or a Cashin or a Wildsmith or a James Collins, that's
the hard one.
It's the hard one.
No, I agree. And we swore we wouldn't talk about Collins today. This is a James Collins loving podcast currently. I might be lying, but right. Thank you so much to everyone for listening. Really, really appreciate you giving up your time to listen to us waffle for a little bit. Once again, apologies for the audio issues the other day. It was the most depressive moment of my life when I pressed play and heard what it sounded like. Adam's been beaten to death. You won't see him again for a while, but when he's back out, the audio will be much better. If you did enjoy, please do give us a rating on Spotify, Apple Pods. We'd really appreciate it. Only if you enjoyed it, though. If you didn't, please don't rate us. On YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If we get to 1,000 by the end of the year, that'll be absolutely class. We do this every week. You can get your comments in. We had a few today. Usually we get more on a Sunday. So get your comments in. Let us know what you think. And the good ones we always shout out and use it as a discussion point. So that's always fun. If you want to catch us at anything, Rams Talk Podcast, Rams Talk Pod, you know where we are by now. I say this every single episode. So if you don't know by now, then I can only apologize for not putting it across clearly enough. But right, Gabby, you won't have done this before because it's your first time on, but we do this really cringy thing when we end where everyone says goodbye from me and we do it in order. So it'll be myself, Jamie, Vic, and then you. It's great when you explain it, isn't it? So thank you everyone for listening. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Thank you very much, everyone. See you at the end of the week.